Have you ever had a performance that felt effortless? You seem to make the right decisions at the right time, you are able to navigate the challenges of the draws that you get, and you ultimately come out on top. Well, this might be something called flow state, and today we're going to be talking about how you can navigate flow state and get there more consistently in your TCG performances. Welcome back to TCG Psychology, the channel where we turn psychological insights into competitive advantages. Now, today we're going to be talking about flow, and this is something that you may have experienced from time to time. From the tournament noise seeming to disappear to the cards seeming to choose themselves, or maybe even the flow of time seems to change. Maybe it slows down and you're seeing everything in slow motion, or you're just playing at a higher pace than normal. These are all signs that you might be entering flow state and you're looking at achieving your optimal performance in these flow states. Now, this is something that has been scientifically researched, and we are going to be exploring in this video how we can reach our peak performance more consistently. So at this point in the video, you may be wondering what flow state is. And without going into too much scientific detail about really what flow is, what's happening is you're in a situation where you're highly challenged, but your skill level matches that challenge. You're quieting down your critical voice, your inner voice that might be questioning what you're doing, and you're able to make decisions based on patterns that or familiar patterns that you've seen, and make decisions based on familiarity with that situation itself. So instead of you consciously making every single decision, you're able to rely on your memory and your familiarity with the matchup or the decks that are being played to ultimately make those decisions more subconsciously rather than trying to overanalyze every single situation. So in TCGs, I like to call this the TCG zone. You're really locked in and ready to go for performance, and you're in a situation where you're highly challenged, but you have a high level of skill to match that challenge as well. So to achieve this TCG zone, it's going to require that there's that high level of skill and high level of challenge for you to actually do that. The reason being is because if you are in a situation where you have maybe a lower level of skill to your opponent and it's a high level of challenge, you know, this is one of the best players in the world, for instance, and you're facing them in round one of the tournament, then you may be experiencing a lot of anxiety. And what that anxiety is going to do is it's going to take your attention away from being able to perform to your best and to your peak, and it's going to ultimately cause a distraction. So it's going to be hard for you to reach that flow state. On the other side, if you have a high level of skill and your opponent has low level of skill, so it's a low level of challenge for you, maybe they're brand new to the game and this is their first tournament and you're facing them in round one, then that's going to also cause some issues with you achieving flow, because you may just go into autopilot. You may start to play a little bit more lazy. Your attention might not be fully locked into that game. You sort of just go through the motions. So in order to achieve the TCG zone, you need to be in that situation where there's that high level of skill and that high level of challenge. Because ultimately, what we want to do is to be fully locked into that task. And when we're in a situation where we perceive ourselves to have a high level of skill and we perceive a high level of challenge, then we're going to be locked in and paying full attention to that situation and blocking out those distractions that might be happening. And that's ultimately what we need to do to reach the TCG zone. So in those situations where you might be facing challenges into reaching the TCG zone, so you know, maybe there's low levels of skill or low levels of challenge, there are some things that we can do to try and make sure that we're setting ourselves up the best to reach our peak performance. So for instance, if you're in that situation where there's low levels of challenge, so maybe you're playing against someone who's brand new to the game, try and change the task in that situation to be more challenging for you. So for example, if I'm playing against them, I'm going to set that goal maybe of I'm going to try and predict every card that they're going to play each time, because that's going to challenge you in terms of really thinking through what cards they might potentially have and also what order they might be playing it in. Now, it doesn't have to be that specific goal. Whatever you're trying to work towards, come up with some kind of goal that will help you focus in that moment. Again, we're trying to bring our attention to that game because our attention might be drifting based on us going on to autopilot, etc. On the other example, if there's low levels of skill, so maybe you don't perceive yourself to be as skillful as your opponent, try and use some of the shortcuts that we've talked about, the mental shortcuts, to really simplify the board in front of you. So in previous videos, we've talked about things like creating acronyms to really identify the key aspects of the board state. So doing something like that will help mitigate that distraction of the anxiety, and you're bringing your focus back into that performance there as well. So some tips and tricks then to enter the TCG zone. Well, first of all, it can be a fine line between entering the zone and leaving the zone in terms of those distractions. So you need to make sure that you're fully focused in on that performance itself, which can be quite difficult in a long tournament day when you're competing in TCG tournaments. But ultimately what you want to do is make sure that things like your phone are on silent, even turning the vibration off. So if you're getting notifications in your pocket and you feel your phone vibrating, then that's going to be a distraction to you being in the TCG zone. Other things like having some skills and techniques to address, distractions that might be happening just naturally in that TCG environment. You've got things like judge calls happening, tournament noise, lots of people communicating around you. You've got games going on to either side of you probably. So that's a lot of distractions to handle, but making sure that you have some of those actionable techniques, such as focusing your attention on specific areas on the board state that you can really focus on when you start to see your attention drift, and things like that to really make sure that you're mitigating those distractions around you. Also, you want to have a clear idea of what you're trying to achieve in each phase of play. So having a clear instruction at the start of that phase to really focus on what you need to do. So maybe it's to get damage on base. That's a nice simple phrase that you can use in Star Wars Unlimited. Maybe it's to recover the board state. So you need to get some more cards down on the board to stick. Having a simple phrase at the start of that turn to really narrow your focus on what needs to be done can be very helpful to entering the TCG zone as well. And then making sure that you're looking at the immediate feedback from the TCG board state itself as well. TCGs are really great for this because you're getting feedback constantly about the performance and how things are going. So you need to perceive that in a way that will help you in this TCG zone. So rather than seeing things as detrimental to performance, maybe a play's gone wrong, try and take the information from that to learn from it and recognize that pattern so that you can continue to perform in the moment. And then once you see that pattern again in the future, you now have some more information on how to approach that in maybe a slightly different way. Now, once you enter the TCG zone, my biggest advice to staying in the TCG zone is to trust your intuition. Now, what's happening when you're in the TCG zone is your brain is able to recognize all the patterns in the play that you've seen before, and your initial feeling on what to do can often be the best course of action because of that natural pattern recognition that's happening within your brain. Now, when it comes to leaving the TCG zone, if we start to question that too much and we start to try and take over that conscious processing, then we can interrupt the TCG zone, and that's where we start to doubt our decision making. So once we're into the TCG zone, it can often be best for us to go with our initial gut reaction because of that level of processing in terms of that pattern recognition that is happening. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about flow state and the TCG zone. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below what is your best ever performance and when did you achieve flow. And if you know of anyone that would benefit from this video, of course, please do share it with them. Until next time, make sure you win the mind game meta.